recently, our Minister for External Affairs, Jaishankar, who's making waves now in India, for having ticked off the US, having said categorically or in no uncertain terms that what we do in India is basically our business, and US has no place really, moral authority to comment on the alleged human rights violations in India, which they have been doing for quite a while. I mean, there was Obama who said something, and then constantly this very preachy tone to Indians about the minorities being violations against human rights violations against the minorities. This is interesting because it's America never seems to take the same tone with, say, Pakistan. What about the disappearing Hindu populations in Bangladesh and Pakistan? And what about the genocide of Kashmiri Brahmins in Kashmir? So when it comes to those very obvious, glaring human rights violations, for some reason, America chooses to be quiet. I know this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's a case of selective outrage, right? I mean, it's politics, and I mean, I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also sort of repelled by it at the same time, because it sort of militates against honest conversation. So, I mean, we should all be outraged when anyone's human rights are violated, whether in India. Well, we have African Americans whose rights are violated. We have African Americans who are shot by police for things for which a white person might not even be given a ticket, might just be given a warning. I've had encounters with the police. They were all, for the most part, very pleasant. I drove a little too fast, and I was not asked to get out of my car or threatened or anything. But you hear about sort of routine traffic violations can be fatal for many African Americans, and it doesn't matter what class of society you're from. I've African American friends who are middle class or even fairly affluent, and they feel as endangered when they're out on the street as any person, right? So when we have human rights violations happening in America, it doesn't put us in a good position to then tell the rest of the world, how it should behave. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Luxembourg can tell the world, how it should behave. But I don't know any human rights violations there. But it is there is a problem with that, and of course it places people in a difficult position, because if you genuinely care about human rights, then yes, you want to see these things brought to the world's attention. But I'm thinking a body like the United Nations is probably in a better position to do something like that than a single country. The U.S. often has seen itself as sort of a bastion of human rights and democracy. That's certainly something to aspire to, but we're imperfect enough ourselves that it does. This, when I've read about these things from Indian context, you see the word hypocrisy a lot, right? And that's the problem, right? That's the rub, right? And as you say, it's selective, right? Some countries are, criticized more than others in it. So I read something recently where I think it was Saudi Arabia. Someone from one of the Middle Eastern states said something very critical about India and treatment of Muslims. And this same country has been completely silent about what China is doing with the Uyghur population, which is on a mass scale.
Pakistan stays mum on the Uyghur Muslims.
It's crazy.
But it raises its voice about the Palestinians. I mean, they're all in India. In India, there is so much, uproar about the Palestinians. But next door, China is doing so much, much more horrific things to the Uyghur Muslims, but they don't want to say anything to them. So it's very selective outrage. And it's easier to chide India. It's easier to chide Hindus because we've always been a quiet and a resilient community.
Right.
So I think there is that as well.
Or you chide those that you want to keep in check, and then if you have some interest in another one, then you might not chide it so much because you need something. I think states are basically amoral. They're adharmic, right? They just they exist to perpetuate their own interests. I really think that's true, and that's different from people. Of course, people are involved in upholding states, but states as entities, I don't see any good guys or bad guys in the world. They're all pretty problematic. And this is what, you know, Arthashastra tells us this, right?
Yes.
That's how states run.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.